Hi, I'm Pip Waller and this is Being Human. Today I'm going to talk about the Celtic Wheel of the Year, or the Pagan Wheel of the Year. That's the indigenous tradition of Europe, Northern Europe, that's very, very based on the seasons and how the energy changes throughout the year. And the whole of the year is marked with ceremonies. You can make it like a circle, and first you divide it into 4 quarters, and on each end of the quarters there are one of the 4 big festivals that are to do with the sun, the movements of the sun. So those are the 2 equinoxes and the 2 solstices. So if we start with the most recent one of those that's in the past, that was the winter solstice. That's the time when the day is shortest and the night is longest. So just after the winter solstice, you could say the sun is reborn and the light starts to return. We go from things getting darker and darker to things getting lighter and lighter. And the next one of those 4 of the sun quarters will be the spring equinox, and that happens around 21st, 22nd, 23rd March, that kind of time. And that's the time in the calendar where the day and the night are exactly equal. So we have a 12-hour day and a 12-hour night. That happens on the equinox. Now, something about the equinoxes that I particularly love, one of those things is that every place in the whole world has a day and night of an exactly equal length on that time. So a 12-hour day and a 12-hour night. I mean, some places like the tropics, for example, always have a 12-hour day and a 12-hour night. It doesn't change. But up here where we are, up here in Wales, up here in the northern hemisphere, we have very different days and nights. But everywhere, even way up in the Arctic Circle, way down, everywhere everywhere in the world, the tropics, every single place, there's this time on the equinoxes where the day and the night are equal. The whole world is poised in balance. The light and the dark are balanced. So the spring equinox is going to come, and that's the time of, obviously there's around here, there's bunnies and lambs and new life everywhere. And also it was called Oestra. So there was a big association with fertility and with eggs and so on, which obviously then that got adopted as Easter in the Christian calendar. That came later. But, really eggs, all that stuff about Easter eggs, that's an older indigenous tradition. So we could call it pagan. That was a Roman name that meant country dweller. But really, pagan people that practice paganism are people that are trying to find and follow the roots, the indigenous spirituality of the land where they live. So after the spring equinox, then the next big event on that solar of quarters is the summer solstice, and that's the opposite to the winter solstice. That's when the day is at its absolute longest and the night is very short. So the light has been coming more and more and more and more, and then at the wheel turns at the summer solstice, and now the light starts to become less. The days start to get shorter, the nights start to get longer. And that carries on until the autumn equinox. The autumn equinox in September, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, that sort of time in September. That's the time when the day and the night again are of absolutely equal length, and that happens everywhere in the whole world. So it's equal day and night, but then the night will start to grow and become dominant. And then the wheel turns again and you're back at the winter solstice, where once more the sun is born, once more from the darkest night, the sun returns, and then we start to have the light and light and light returning. So that's how the year looks, and we talk about the wheel and the wheel turning from one season to the next, from one festival to the next. Those are the 4 quarters, they're called. Then the other 4 festivals that we have they're called the cross quarters, and those are more or less they're between the quarters. So the most recent one that was a couple of weeks ago, beginning of February, is Imbolc. Imbolc. That is the most beautiful festival. That is the time when the snowdrops are here, and the time when really from Imbolc the light really starts to return, and we really start to notice the days lengthening, and the birds start to sing a little as well. Even though it's still winter, Imbolc is a promise that the spring will come, and it's the time of the maiden. The goddess comes out of the earth. Her energy starts to rise out of the earth as these first very beautiful, delicate signs of the spring that will come. It's not spring yet, still winter, but it's a promise that the spring will come. Snowdrops, crocuses, and so on. And then after that we had the obviously spring equinox. There'll be daffodils everywhere, primroses, spring proper happens. Then between the spring equinox and the summer solstice, we have the festival of Beltane of the 1st of May, May Day. And this is the time when the goddess is fully in her prime as a beautiful and a mature young woman. And it's the time when she takes the god, who's now, finally, he's grown up, but he's untested. Beltane is the real fertility sexual rite where the goddess takes the god and makes a man of him. And so May Day, well, the maypole, all those fertility, all those phallic symbols, and it's all about sex, Beltane. In fact, what's the little rhyme? Hooray, hooray, the 1st of May, outdoor sex begins today. So that's Beltane. Then after Beltane, we had the summer solstice, and then between the summer solstice and the autumn equinox, we've got the festival called Lammas, which is the time of the harvest. It's really the harvest time. So it's the time when the corn king was sacrificed. The god, as I've talked about before, with the winter solstice, the god, he's born at the winter solstice and then he's sacrificed, he dies, he's born and he dies, and he's born and he dies every year. So he's born in the winter solstice, but he's sacrificed, he sacrifices himself, he gives his blood so that the land can live, and that's at Lammas. So that's the time of corn and the harvest. And then after that we got the autumn equinox, and then midway between the autumn equinox and the winter solstice, we have the 4th, one of those cross quarters, which is Samhain. That is nowadays known as Halloween, 31st of October, 1st of November. And that was the Celtic New Year. That was the end of the old year and the beginning of the new. Samhain, it's the time when the goddess becomes the crone and goes deeply into the earth, goes into the underworld. That's to do with the energy of the earth. In Samhain, she goes deeply in. At Imbolc, she starts to come out again. So that's just a little taster about the Celtic Wheel of the Year. I hope you like it. I'll be doing more of this, especially if I get the feedback that you like it. And our ancestors and many people still today follow these, honour these festivals and follow them. I think it's quite a good way, because it keeps us very connected with nature, with the land. All Indigenous traditions are about the land that we're actually living on now. And also a good party every 6 weeks, a good celebration. It's good for the soul and the spirit. I'm Pip Paula, this is Being Human. Thanks for listening.